Carson back in here, we'll have him get that third seat. But as far as promotions, Tasha.
May I interrupt?
Yeah, go
Or
ahead.
should I wait for Carson? I can come back. Let's just go ahead and do it right now. Carson can get stuff on the way out. So, congratulations for sitting here. See, this is the thing. If you come here, you get. Oh, this is yours. Like, take the whole tray. Please. This is a reward. Yes, please.
Take as much as you want.
As much as you want. You earn this. Working hard.
Alright, sure.
Hey, alright. Any more? Last chance. Fourth time's a charm. Alright.
Alrighty.
Okay, we got a couple of promotions tonight. So, first we've got Justin Farr. He's in Rhode Island, and he just knocked out his 3 training sales. He's moving on up. And he did a smart start, so he's already at that 35% contract, 4 agents, and he's kicking it. So way to go, Justin. And I am gonna, will you go grab Carson? Pull him out real quick. Carson Peck actually just knocked out his smart start as well, so we're gonna pull him out of filling out an application real quick, get him some recognition. It's just a new agent, you know. Here he comes. Carson, 35% promotion, knocking out his smart start. Way to go. Congratulations.
Also, Carson, when you're done, that seat's all yours. All right.
Yeah, don't forget to grab your treats.
Perfect. Anyone passed their test recently? Anyone online pass their test recently? Do we know?
I know some that are taking it.
Okay, well, good luck to them. For hopefully we can, read their name next week. But next thing is Estes Park contest currently going. Definitely don't want to miss it. We have that big poster up there to remind you. Mountain getaway. Gonna be really, really fun. 80,000 points. Just a reminder on how you win it. 80,000 points, and each personal recruit counts as 5,000 towards that. So you could just win it on only personal recruiting. And you know what that would do for your business? What is it? 16 recruits to get there. That would absolutely explode your business. You'd win it in points, as well as that put you towards the Hawaii contest as well. So definitely, running for that now. Whether you win it or not, obviously you push to win it, but it gets you in line to win Hawaii as the next contest and continue to win them from here on forward. So we do have a Super Saturday coming up, February 11th at 9 a.m. Location to be locked down, to be determined on that, where we're going. But get that in your calendars, February 11th. Do we have the sign up in the back office yet?
Shortly.
We will have that shortly, is what Rod says. So as soon as that's up, get registered for that. Definitely something you don't want to miss. Again, building your business from event to event. Always want to be there, always promoting those. Also, going along with that, you can now register for convention in the back office. Again, the price bumps up in February. Right now it's $150 a person, $250 a couple. There'll be a price increase. Again, we need to know how many people are going to be there as soon as possible to get things locked down. So go get yourself registered so you can attend this. Going to be an awesome event. And going along with that, do we have?
We will very shortly.
We have a video to go along with that. That we will. Rod's gonna work his magic. Pull him up.
Just keep talking.
Okay. Well, while he does that. Sounds like you're ready.
Okay. So hold on, let me switch it for them.
Okay. Well, I won't continue on because I got rudely interrupted while I was trying to continue.
Press the bar.
like I already own it. Standing on top cause I earned this moment. I took what was mine, now I won't let go of it. Cause I'm a hustler, yeah I'm a hustler. Cause I'm a hustler, yeah I'm a hustler. I didn't come from lunch or own no diamonds. Yeah, I was barely getting by, we survived like lions. But now I'm the king, now I'm a titan. Yeah, cause I'm a hustler, yeah I'm a hustler. Cause I'm a hustler, yeah I'm a hustler. Keep turning up the heat, I keep turning up the heat. Keep turning up the heat, yeah, yeah, I'm a hustler. Yeah, yeah, keep turning up the heat. I know the price is steep.
That's an awesome video. Something I like on that is it says, get ready for the explosion. You know, we're on an explosion this year, and you're either coming along for the ride or you're going to get left behind. So definitely want to jump on the train and be a part of that. Love that video. If that doesn't get you hyped for convention, I don't know what will, you know. That really gets the blood flowing, gets it pumping. You know, you really want to come a little sooner. But get registered for that so you don't have to register at the higher price. Get ready for it, get it booked. We have rooms blocked out to be able to book with us. Wide and deep pins. Do we have those? Any of those? Pull it off Mike's suit coat real quick. Okay. Rod, how do I work this thing?
We're totally prepared for today.
I'm just gonna start spinning things. Okay. So these are new recognition pins. That's the word I'm looking for. It's so as I show this. Oh, can we see that? There we go. So that's what it looks like. It's silver. This is a 3WD. They go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then there's 5, 6, and then there's also gold ones that go 1 through 6 as well. And the kind of what it means is the silver. I'll turn this off now. Is it's one leg that is 4 deep. So it's one of your legs goes 4 deep, and then if you have 2 legs that go 4 deep, that's a 2WD, and 3WDs, 3 legs 4 deep, so on and so forth. The gold ones are 8 deep. So one leg that's 8 deep, 2WD that's gold is 2 legs 8 deep, so on and so forth, all the way through 6. And we want you to, as you get those, you get recognized with these pins. And don't want to damage that for you, Mike. But once you kind of wearing your latest one, what you have to kind of show off your recognition, what you have. But you know, yeah, I figured you would catch that. It's fine. I don't know how this goes back. That looks good. Okay, last thing before we get into some training is we've talked about you can go to the back office. There's a lot of training videos there that you can access, kind of keep you up and keep your learning on and kind of shorten that learning curve. But the latest ones aren't always up there. You go to the YouTube channel to find the latest ones. So last week's, if you missed last week, you go onto the YouTube channel, it's put up there, and you can go watch last week's training. I highly recommend doing that if you miss a training to stay updated on what's going on around here. And then just a couple, reminders when you renew your license. Always send a copy to the company, and that's at admin at My Common Sense Financial. With it being the new year, some of your licenses may have lapsed. You need to renew them. Send the renewals in to the company as well. But excited for our training tonight. We got one of our partners doing it. Someone who's been in the industry for many, many years, knows what he's talking about. This is something you're going to want to take notes on. That's going to help you with your closing ratio, working with other people and what they're doing and what they have going. So without further ado, I'll introduce Bill Riggs for our training.
Look, he's got the clicker up here for me. That's awesome. Which button do I push? 2, 1, 2, 3.
That's good.
Oh, it's already there. Sweet, you are the man. All right, so before I get into that, I just wanted to tell you, I got today a new step tracker that keeps track of your calories and the steps that you take, right? And I'm at about only 3,000 steps today, and you need to be doing around 10,000. So I got a lot of walking to do, and I was thinking when we started this meeting, I should have just handed this to Rod as he's walked back and forth here tonight. He's probably got those 10,000 steps. So shoot, I should have done that. So now I'm gonna have to go do some more walking, maybe take Terry to the gym or something. All right, well, hey, congratulations to you guys. Did you happen to see the napkins when they handed you the candy and the water and stuff? You should have grabbed those. Because everybody knows here I spit when I talk. So, you might want to already get that. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about tonight is the different types of insurance. Oh, but before I forget, I want to just share a fun little story with you. But I also want you to think about what I'm about to say. So, a few weeks ago, I had somebody that gave me a referral, and I called them up, and they had some money that they wanted to roll into an IRA, and so we took care of that for them. And then they later introduced me to their sister, and I did the same thing for their sister, which was awesome. And then about a week and a half ago, I get a call just out of the blue, and it's this brother and sister's mom calls me. And she says, you know, I want to maybe meet with you. I'm getting close to retirement, trying to figure out what I'm going to have, how much income I'm going to be able to make when I retire. And I just need a financial consultant to, you know, tell me what I'm looking at and what I can kind of plan for. But I want you to know that I have no intentions of putting any of my money with you. Okay, so if you got that phone call, what would you think?
Go somebody else.
Right? Goes to somebody else?
No, I'm just kidding.
What would you do?
Just what you did.
Well, I'll tell you
Well,
what I
come on
did.
in. Let's see what we can do for you. Let me see if I can help you go to somebody else that won't be able to help you.
There you go. I like that, Terry. That's awesome.
That's actually good.
That's really good. So one thing I learned from a friend of mine that is just a master at selling. One of the things I learned from him is I don't ever listen, not to ever listen to those comments. When she said I have no intentions of investing with you, I'm like, we'll see. We'll see. So we had an appointment tonight just before the meeting started. We did a Zoom call and got looking at things for her. And really the only retirement plan she has is her Social Security.
Oh boy.
But she's got money sitting around in the bank and other places. She said she had at least $100,000 that she hadn't counted in a while, so it might be more than that. And I said, well, where is it? She goes, it's in my safe. So anyway, needless to say, we looked at everything, and I presented to her the idea of creating her own pension through setting up an annuity. And we went through and we ran through some numbers, and she's flat out excited about it. So I guess she's probably going to invest with me. We're meeting again next week to go over the final numbers. So I'm not even sure where it's going to end up. I would think it's at least going to be 100,000, if maybe even closer to 2. So don't ever listen to what people tell you. I mean, you need to listen, but you need to learn how to handle things that they say when they say them, right?
So what's the best part of that ending, of that conversation?
I don't remember. Tell me.
Yeah, what she said about finance, and the
Oh.
daughter said,
I can't repeat that.
she can't, you can say what the daughter said. Daughter said she has a degree in something.
I don't remember what she
And
said,
the mom
but
said,
the
well, I
mom's,
have a degree in finance
and she says, but I don't know
about it.
about it. Yeah. Anyway, funny. Okay, let's get on to our training. We want to make sure we get through all of this today. And as I look back in my career, as I've been in this business now for 36 flipping years, if you can believe that. I was looking at that the other day, and I'm like, oh my gosh. That just makes me feel old when I think about it. In fact, I started to narrow it down. I just say over 30 instead of 36. That's a long time. But I remember back when I first got in the business at age 21, one of the reasons I got in the business was because of my dad, who had quit teaching school and he decided to go sell 403B annuities to school teachers because that was kind of a new thing back then. And I wanted to be part of that because I saw our lifestyle dramatically change. He was making $30,000 a year teaching school, and he went into this business, quit his teaching job, moved down to St. George, and in his first 3 months he made $100,000. And I'm like, I don't want to go to college, I want to do what you're doing. Right? Okay? And so, but I learned, really all I learned how to do early on in my career was how to sell 403B annuities. And I had no clue about life insurance, even though I had the license and I passed the test, and I honestly don't know how I passed it because the tests were Scott, the tests were a lot more difficult in those days, right? We used to have to go to a class and take so many hours of
40 hours of class.
yeah, and they used to talk way over my head. I had no clue what they were talking about. It was amazing that I actually passed that test. But nobody really ever taught me how to sell life insurance. And there were a couple times I tried and it just blew up in my face and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I don't want to do that anymore. And I would have loved an opportunity for somebody back early on in my career, because my dad didn't sell life insurance, he just sold these annuities. It would have been nice to be able to have somebody teach me what they are, how they work, and how they can be beneficial to the client. And so I hope that as we go through this today, you realize that you have some great sources here to be able to teach you the trade of our business so that you can become a true professional in helping people understand what's going to be best for them. Okay? So we're going to talk about different types of life insurance. And of course, there's temporary insurance, as you can see up there. We have term, convertible term, and then we have permanent types of insurance, which would be whole life, universal life, variable universal life, and then index universal life. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and share with you a little bit about each of these. And if you have questions, don't ask, because I may not have the answer. No, I'm kidding. But no, let's make sure we get your questions answered. So first of all, let's look at term insurance. Now, there is different types of term as far as I said, just regular term. There's convertible term, which we'll get into in just a minute. But basically, a term insurance is exactly what that means. It's for a term or a period of time. That's why they call it term insurance. It can go anywhere from 10 to 15, 20, 25 years, even 30 years long. And the older you get, you don't quite have all those options. So somebody in their 40s may not be able to do a 30-year term because they're too old. But if they're a little bit younger, they very well could do that. Now, understand this, that when you look at these term policies, all you're getting with term insurance is just straight insurance. There's no cash value that accumulates with those. It's just paying for life insurance. And so because of that, the premiums are usually pretty low, very affordable, very reasonable, okay? The shorter your term is, the lower the premium's gonna be, because they're only gonna have to share or cover you for that period of time if it's 10 years or what have you, okay? And you can go all the way up to 30 years. Now, what happens with term, though, is at the end of that term, in fact, let's just see, just by somebody want to volunteer, what happens if I buy a 10-year term, what happens after the 10th year? What?
You're out of money and insurance.
Okay, could you keep it, though?
You can
If you renew,
requalify.
you can requalify.
Okay, Rod?
It switches to a manually renewable term and your premiums skyrocket.
Yep, so your premiums go up dramatically. In fact, so much that they're not affordable. So most people are not going to typically keep their term because it's just doesn't make sense to pay it, okay? And so that's a problem. Yes?
After you renew that term, would the premiums be more than it would have been if you just had gotten a whole life policy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot more, right? And so they're not affordable, okay? Now, what I would suggest, though, is that there are times, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, there are times when you should sell a client a term policy, and we'll talk about when that is appropriate. But the point is that we're here to help people and help protect families, and if that's all that they can afford, then you need to do it, okay? And why not? You need to make it worth your time. If you weren't going to be able to write, say, an index universal life, for example, but you could write a term, at least you come out of there making sure the family, number one, is protected, and then secondly, you get compensated for your time as well. Rod?
And it's okay to write 2 policies too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You're getting ahead of me, though, but you're right. Okay, all right, so there's term insurance. Any questions on that so far? Okay. All right, let's talk about another type of term, and Rod already alluded to this, but you can actually sell an ART or an annual renewable term now, okay? You don't have to wait till after the 10 years or whenever the term ends. And typically with the annual renewable term, the premiums are really inexpensive, especially if it's for somebody that's young, okay? Now, I'm not a big fan of these, and part of the reason for that is I've had experiences where I've sat down with people and they've had this term policy for 10 or 15 years, and their premiums have climbed so much, they're just like, I don't know what's going on, and my insurance keeps going up. I don't understand. And it's because whoever sold it to them sold them one of these policies and didn't explain to them that your insurance costs are going to go up every year. As you get older, the cost of insurance gets more expensive, and so your premiums go up accordingly, okay? And so I'm not a big fan of those. Now, there might be a situation maybe that you may want to sell it. I mean, anybody here sell annual renewable term? I'm not trying to shoot it down. I want to know, are there people here selling it?
I've sold it before,
Okay.
and it's typically a short-term type.
Yes. And now, Scott, that would be the only time that I would probably sell it, is if it's going to be just for a really short period of time. However, why not sell them a 10 or a 15 or a 20-year term, somewhere along those lines, as long as it's affordable, because you don't always know. The client may have the intention to get something different in a year or two, but let's be realistic, things change and they may not be able to. So even though their premium may be a little bit higher with a longer term, at least they're locked into that. And that's one thing I didn't mention, is the premium, whatever, if you pick a 10 or even a 30-year term, that rate that you get them qualified at is locked in. It never changes over that period of time, okay? And so why not sell them a longer term? And then if they do end up replacing it in a year or two, that's okay, okay? So I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to do that. All right. Okay, let's talk a minute for in regards to convertible term insurance. And what do you think convertible term is? Without reading up there, what is it? Any ideas? All right.
Change it to a permanent after a certain period.
That'd be correct. That would be correct, okay? So it allows a client to convert a term policy to permanent life, such as a whole life or universal life, and even there are some out there that can convert to an index life, okay? The advantage to converting it is the client doesn't need to requalify from a health standpoint, okay? So this is really important if their health happens to change, to where maybe they are no longer insurable. So when I sell term insurance, that's really my goal, is to try to sell them a convertible term. And I can tell you that I've had personal experience with that. A client of mine at the time bought a 10-year term, and he was a little bit older. He's actually in his 50s. But he said, I only need it for a few years. I think we'll be okay. And this is a circumstance that changed, by the way. And so we did a term policy for him. I think it was for like $500,000. And then on the 9th year, I get a phone call from him, and he said, Bill, we need to look at my insurance because I just got back from the doctor and I've been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. What can we do? So he's 9 years into his term policy. Is he insurable if he goes out and gets insurance somewhere else?
Nope.
He's not, right? And so because I had set him up in a convertible term, we were actually able to convert it to a universal life policy. And pancreatic cancer, those that don't know, it's pretty much not curable. You're going to die from it. And he lived another 4 or 5 years and passed away. And because we were able to convert it, he was able to leave to his wife that $500,000 and take care of their financial needs. Now, they were pretty good financially. Otherwise, their house was paid for and those kinds of things. So it was more than enough for what he needed. But I love that fact that I was able to put them in that policy because that was a situation where it really, truly paid for itself, okay? And so as you're writing term policies, try to make sure you're writing a convertible term, okay, because of that very reason. The other thing too that you have to look at, even if you sell them a 30-year term, that most of the time you have to convert it in the first 10 years. Okay, so I haven't seen any that allow you to do it after that. I don't know if anybody else has, but I haven't seen them personally.
I think North American does let you do that. with
After
those.
10 years?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's for the life of the term, for their IUL product.
for their IUL. Okay, so it would be a term converting to an IUL?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, good to know. Yes?
Do you get paid upon conversion, or just when you sign right the first person?
Yes, actually you do, because it's a new policy. At least I did. Is that true with that company? Tasha, do you know?
Yes, you do.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that's convertible term. All right, let's talk now about permanent insurance. Now there's multiples of or types of different permanent types of life insurance policies. First there's whole life, then we have universal life, then we have variable universal life, and then index universal life. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on these. Okay, all right. So whole life has been around really since life insurance has been around. It's been around for a long time. Why do they call it whole life? It's for your whole life, right? That's at least that's the idea, right? And it's a permanent insurance. I like that with the light clicks on. That's cool. All right, so it insures the whole life of the client. Typically with permanent policies, with whole life or any of the others, the premiums are going to be higher. With whole life, the premiums are fixed, so they don't go up over time. And then part of those premiums go into what they call a cash value, which for all simple terms, I call it a savings account, okay? And so part of those premiums go into the savings account, but you're lucky if you get 2 to 4% interest on that, okay? I did see one, in fact there's one I actually converted over to an IUL. They were about 4.5%, but it was capped at 4.5%. That sounds good, but then by the time you factor in inflation, the real rate of inflation, not the one that the government likes to use, you're losing money. You just can't grow money fast enough if that's all you're getting. Okay, so from an investment standpoint, they just don't make a lot of sense. Okay, they're expensive, their fees are high. Now, as far as whole life is concerned, the only whole life that I really have ever sold, I remember when I first started my career, I got slaughtered trying to sell whole life insurance because I didn't know what I was doing. But over years I learned, and the whole life that I've sold is what they call a final expense life insurance policy, okay? Now, final expense, I don't have that up here, I probably should have put it up there, but final expense life insurance really is designed for somebody that maybe has no coverage whatsoever, they're getting a little bit older, they want to make sure that they have something to at least cover their final expenses, such as their funeral costs, that sort of a thing. And funerals now today are anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. They're not cheap. And so they'll buy these policies to make sure that that's covered. Usually with those types of policies, you can get up to around $50,000 in coverage is the most that you can get. But obviously, because it is whole life, if it's somebody that's older and they're buying a $50,000 life insurance policy, the premiums are going to be pretty significant, even at that. So typically what most people do is they're going to buy just enough to bury them, more or less, okay? That's really the only whole life insurance that I would ever sell, because I don't want to sell them something with high premiums, with no opportunity for growth, and then to have high fees, okay? Any questions on the whole life insurance? Was that helpful, Terry? I know you said today you wanted to learn about whole life.
I got that.
You got that, okay. All right.
The whole life.
All right. Okay, now we're looking at universal life. So universal life came after whole life. I don't remember exactly when, but it did come after. Again, it's permanent insurance. It insures the whole life of the client. And premiums are higher because you have a cash value that's growing with it, plus the costs are more expensive. With universal, the biggest difference is the fact that the premiums are flexible. Okay, so they could put more money away into their policy if they wanted to, and that extra money that they would be putting into that would go into their cash value, earning 3 to 4% interest, whatever it might be. Okay. Cash value, again, like I say, it grows like a savings account. The fees are expensive. The cost of insurance goes up every year, so it kind of eats into your cash value a little bit. And then if underfunded, it could actually cancel. Okay? So just to share a story with you, I know of someone that bought a universal policy, and they were paying a certain amount of premium into it every month. And they told me that they weren't quite they were underfunding it. And so the insurance company contacted them and say, listen, if you want to keep your policy, you need to increase your premium. Otherwise, it's going to cancel on you, okay? And so they increased it to whatever it was that they needed to increase it to. They never heard from the insurance company again, and some 15 years or so had gone by. And they're like, I wonder why they haven't called me about increasing my premium, because I know the insurance costs go up. They got to looking at it and found out that what the insurance company did is actually reduce their death benefit to match their premium. And so they had about half of their death benefit than what they originally started with, okay?
They're not supposed to do that without notifying them, right?
They shouldn't, but they didn't,
That's
okay?
terrible.
Yeah. So that was a Transamerica product, Scott.
The agent probably told them to lower the insurance,
And
so you get a chargeback.
could have done, but they've had it for years, so they probably wouldn't have been a chargeback. I don't know. But regardless, if you're not funding these things properly, then it's only going to hurt the client. And so make sure that it's suitable for the client. It's something that they are in the financial position to afford. And if they can overfund it, they're going to be better off if they do that. But that's universal life. Okay. Any questions on that? Yes.
If they put in more and it's growing and they start underfunding it, they'll take it out of kind of that.
Yeah, they'll take it out of the cash value of the account. Yeah, to make up for that. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's talk about variable universal life. So the difference with variable is that, again, it's permanent, insures the whole life of the client. Premiums, again, are higher, cash value. The cash value works differently with the variable because you actually have mutual fund sub-accounts that you can invest in, okay? And when you're looking at that, because they're mutual funds, the account values can go up or down with the market, okay? And it also, if you're going to sell it, it requires both a securities license, a Series 6 and 63, and then also a life insurance license as well to be able to sell that product. Now, when I first got in this business, when I started selling more life insurance, this is what I sold. And this was back in the 90s. And in the 90s, from 1990 to 1999, you couldn't put money in the market and not make money. I mean, I used to say you take a dartboard, right? Put a bunch of mutual funds up on the dartboard, throw darts on there, and see what mutual fund it landed on, and you can make money doing that. I mean, you remember those days, Scott?
Oh, yeah.
In 1999, I had mutual funds pay 100% interest in 1999. So if you had $100,000 at the beginning of 99, it's worth $200,000 12 months later, okay? Pretty good, right? And then we had a correction not long after that, and people's account values really dropped. And so as exciting and fun as it was to sell those variable universal life products, it became a real nightmare because we started seeing a client's account values drop. And so we don't sell those here at Common Sense, thank goodness, because it's not something that I think is a very formidable product. At the time it seemed to be great, but it really wasn't as good as we thought because we weren't accounting for down markets. Okay, any questions on variable universal life? All right, you guys getting this down? Ready to sell it? Okay. All right, so let's talk about index universal life. We sell that here. That's kind of cool. So permanent insurance, premiums are higher, flexible, Cash value is based on indexes such as the S&P 500, the Barclays, and other markets. There's a guarantee that you can't lose. I love that, by the way. You know, early on in my career when I had a securities license, it was illegal to say we can guarantee. And with index products and the fact that I don't have a securities license anymore, I gave it up voluntarily, by the way. We can guarantee that the client can't lose, okay? And then that's really what it's all about. When we talk about saving for our future, and we do this in our presentation of the importance of putting your money in such a way that you never lose money, because losing money always hurts you more than making money is going to help you, okay? Now, one of the stories that I like to share when we talk about market performance, if we go back to 2007, you know, markets were doing okay, and you know, we're into 2008. 2008 starts to hit, and we start to see a big crash in the market. So the S&P 500 lost about 40%, but national average people lost over 50%, between 50 and 60% of their life savings, okay? And what most financial advisors will teach their clients is, hey, when it comes to investing in the market, it's not timing the market, but rather it's time in the market. In other words, if you leave the money in there over time, it will grow. And that is 100% correct. Except I would argue that timing the market is equally important, if not more important, because when you take it out and you happen to time it wrong, it can really hurt you. So for example, if we go back to 2007, and you've got somebody, a client that's 64 years of age, and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to retire next year. This is the plan, right? They go buy the Winnebago. They're going to go travel the country. They're going to see their grandkids, all right, and do things that they want to do. But then over the course of the next 12 months, they lose 50% of their life savings. You guys, this is what happened. Nationally, we saw this happen. People that were retirement age all of a sudden couldn't retire because they just lost half of their life savings. And it literally took between 8 and 12 years just for them to get back to even. So now they're well into their 70s, now being able to finally be able to retire. Timing the market is everything. More important than time in the market, because you've got to protect your assets, okay? And that's what I love about this product, is that you can guarantee the client is never going to lose money, and yet have all of that upside potential of growth when the markets are doing well. And so it's the best of both worlds in that your client can sleep at night. How many of you are getting calls right now saying, hey, what's happening to my money? The market's down. Anybody in here getting those calls? If I was selling variable universal life, or we were all selling variable universal life, how many calls would we be getting? We'd be getting a few, okay? And so that's what I love about this product, is it has all this potential. You're protecting the client, and then you can really put them in a great position, because when they start pulling money out, I don't even have that up there, I don't think. It's probably in another slide. You're able to pull it out tax-free, okay? I've yet to meet anybody that said, I would rather have my money taxed than not, okay? It's just a universal answer right there. All right, now let's talk to you about a couple of unique products. Thanks to these guys sending me some information. It was good to see this, so I didn't even think about it. But this is called a first to die insurance policy. And essentially what it is you have 2 or more people who are insured under the same policy, okay? And then primarily it's used to insure business partners of a business. That's usually the main purpose of it. And the business typically is going to pay the premiums, okay? Now when you have a business of partners, for example, and each of those partners have a critical role in the running of a business, this is really a good product to have, because if something happened to one of those partners and they passed away, this can actually help take care of at least the financial end of things to keep the business running appropriately. Okay, and so the way it works is that when one of the partners dies, there's a cash payout that's usually used to support the business, and then also maybe buy out the partner and pay off the spouse. Okay, and so that's a great benefit for that. Usually these policies are less expensive, and then once the first person dies, the policy terminates. So if the rest of the partners want to have a policy like that, they've got to go get another one. So it only pays out on the death of one person. Okay? Yeah, Terry?
Just curious how that works if, let's say they have a key person insurance. Is it a separate insurance or is it like something you can attach to each other, do you know?
Well, a key person would be more for like an employee as opposed to maybe a partner. And that would be just a separate independent insurance policy is what I would use that for. Good question though, thank you. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So we have a second to die or a survivorship policy. So what this is two people are insured. Usually it's a married couple under the same policy. And it doesn't pay out until after the death of the second insured. So once the first person dies, it doesn't pay out till the second person passes away, okay? Now, a lot of times these are used to maybe leave a legacy to cover estate costs, whatever it might be for their family, for their heirs. But this is also a really good option for people that maybe are not insurable, okay? So let's say you've got a husband and wife, and the husband just got through a bout of cancer. He's in remission, but he's only been in remission for 6 months. Well, he's not insurable, right? Right?
Correct.
If you have cancer, can you get insurance? You can't. Don't speak all up at once. You guys are getting shy all of a sudden.
Just any kind of cancer.
Yeah.
At all.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So they're not insurable. Or if they had a heart attack, they wouldn't be insurable. Okay. For at least 10 years. I think you have to have 10 years of clean health before you can even have a chance to have some insurance. So in that case, you've got a husband and wife. There is a way that you could get coverage on both of them. He could get coverage, but it would be qualified under the healthy person of the couple. And then once that policy is in place, it won't pay the death benefit out until both have died. Okay, so there is a place for that. Anybody in here sold one? Scott, you have? Okay. Yes.
Do premiums change after the first person dies, or?
So on the first to die?
No, for
No.
this one.
No, it stays the same. Stays the same. Yeah. Premium stays the same. All right.
So just to clarify though, there are some insurance you can get for cancer and having had cancer, but that's always factored into the rates.
Yes, yes. Right. Okay. All right. Okay, so why should we sell term insurance? You guys all know who Dave Ramsey is, right? What does Dave Ramsey teach you? And get out of debt too, right? So get out of debt, buy term insurance, invest the difference. Why do you think he tells people that? He's got a radio show, national radio show. Why does he tell people to buy term insurance? Hmm? What do you think? There's no right or wrong answer. What do you think?
He probably owns the company.
Maybe.
Cheap, yeah, cheap.
Any ideas?
Help people that might be not as good off yet to build up to something
Okay,
better.
that's good. That's a good possibility, absolutely. Okay, so I would tell you that the reason I believe that Dave Ramsey teaches that you should buy in term insurance is that when he's doing a national radio show, he's talking to the masses, okay? And the masses need to have something. So term insurance is really inexpensive. Why not buy term insurance? But there's a lot of problems with just focusing on getting term insurance. The thing that's interesting to me, I met somebody a few years ago that knows Dave Ramsey. He doesn't have term insurance. He has whole life, which somebody needs to talk to him. But he has whole life, and he puts large sums of money into these things, okay? And he's not practicing what he preaches. And it's because, again, like I think he's talking to the masses. And so term insurance definitely has its place, but it's not always the best option. Mike?
When he's in a position of talking to the masses, it's really easy to plug and chug a term policy and invest the difference, right? Roth,
Yeah.
mutual fund, whatever.
Yeah.
What we do is we have to design the plan around that person. If you plug somebody into an IUL, it's probably not designed the right way.
Yeah.
But it's his job, right? That's his
Yeah.
soapbox that he gets to be a part of the masses and tell them really easy things to do in a checklist format that everybody can follow.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, and that's the difference with what we're doing is we're sitting with the individual family and assessing what their needs are and what's going to be the best option. And there are going to be times where term insurance is appropriate. to offer that. But if we could put somebody in an IUL and do it right, it's gonna be a better option for them, okay? Now, here's an interesting statistic. Only 2% of all term policies worldwide, 2% actually pay a death claim. Okay, so why? Why do only 2% of term life policies pay out a death claim?
Because the premium gets too high.
Yes, they get rid of it after so long, right? After the term.
People outlive the term.
Right on. That's it. So most term policies people outlive. Okay, and so now they don't have insurance, or maybe they've upgraded to whole life or other permanent type policies. I shouldn't even say whole life.
Hence the reason it's so cheap.
What's that?
Hence the reason it's so cheap.
Yes. And so they just simply don't pay out because the term usually expires. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. That's only 2%. And most people typically die of more natural causes, so they usually live longer. You know, unless it's an accident or something, then typically a term policy is not going to pay out. So when is it appropriate to offer term life as an option? Well, first of all, we've talked about this already, and that is having, you know, that's all they can budget for. Right? That's what they can afford. It might be for a temporary period of time, just a short period of time. They need it for a little while until they're able to do something better. And then somebody mentioned, I forget who it was tonight, but a combination of the two. Maybe do an IUL, but because of their budget, you can't quite get them the insurance that they need with their IUL, and you want to make sure you're funding it properly. So you do an IUL on them, and then you do a term policy with it, and add to it to make sure that they get the coverage that they need. Okay? So those are some good times where term insurance is good to sell. Any questions? All right, you guys excited? Terry.
Also, if you're writing like an Allianz IUL, they don't have a spouse term rider. So you might want to write the term policy on,
Yeah.
just on the spouse.
Good point. Very good point. Okay, you want to make sure they have coverage for both the spouse in certain cases. Okay, so let's go back to Index Universal Life, which is an alternative investment tool. So there are multiple benefits with it. We've already talked about a lot of this, but market type returns without the risk, which is awesome. Life insurance to protect the family, business, and assets. Long-term care is an option with a lot of our IULs, and we're kind of we're going to be seeing a great, in fact we are already, seeing a great need for long-term care. You can offer it right in their life insurance policy. If you ever looked at long-term care by itself, it's very expensive. You've got to have some assets to be able to pay and afford something like that. So why not add it in your life policy, because it's much more affordable. Anita?
So, I'm not positive, but I think, isn't it the IUL that one of the selling points would be that, infants, kids is a rider?
Well, it could be on an IUL, but really any permanent type policy you can get a term rider for your kids and insure
It
them
doesn't-
too.
Okay, so is there one with the IUL and it doesn't cost any more?
There's always a cost. But it's very minimal. So to insure your kids, the good thing about adding kids to your rider, it's going to give them enough coverage to maybe cover funeral costs, that sort of thing. So you get them for like $10,000 or whatever. If you sell one to a family and they have one child and you put that rider on the policy so that they're covered, it also covers future children coming in. So they don't have to add each child every time they have a baby. Okay, it's automatically included with that rate that they're paying. And then when they turn 18, you typically can separate it and convert it to just an individual policy for the client if they so choose. So that's kind of a nice benefit with those. Yes?
Say you had a juvenile rider on it, then when you separate it, would you I assume you would up the insurance significantly?
You know, it depends. It really just depends. More than likely it would be the same amount because they wouldn't have to requalify from a health standpoint.
Let's say they started with like 20,000 just to cover some funeral costs.
Right, it would just be for the amount that was originally disclosed, I believe.
Okay.
Rod, is that right?
Yeah, that's my understanding. So the reason why you would do that is if there's a reason they wouldn't qualify now.
Yeah. So So they may have some health issues that might be a challenge to get them covered. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. With these policies too, there typically are riders that are already factored in, and that's an accelerated death benefit rider for chronic or critical illness. So if they are diagnosed with a critical disease like cancer, and let's say they're given 12 months or even 24 months or less to live, they can actually access the life insurance portion of that while they're alive. And depending on the company, you get a percentage. You can get up to 100% depending on who the insurance company is of the full death benefit while they're still living. Now, chronic illness is more like, let's see, congestive heart failure, something along those lines, where they have some serious health issues and they're not able to work because of their health. They can also access the death benefit while they're still living, which is a nice benefit to have. And usually most of these policies have them built right into the cost. You're not charging them an extra fee, it just comes with it. Okay. And then of course there's big tax advantages, as you all know. Okay, I want to take just a minute and talk about the tax advantages of an IUL compared to other things. And if you look at investing, and we talk about this in our presentations, but I like how this is kind of put together because I did it. So if we look at taxable versus tax deferred versus tax free, in a taxable investment, you earn interest. Let's say you get 10% return on your investment. After taxes, you're going to get a net of around 7%. So your money obviously is not going to grow as fast at 10% in a taxable type of investment. So what most people do is they put their money in a tax deferred type plan. So 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, 457s, those are all tax qualified plans where the money is not taxed when it grows in. And then when you pull it out, that's when you pay the taxes on it, right? So we're deferring taxes to a later unknown tax bracket, which is kind of scary. There's some rules too, and I think that this is really good to understand this. But if you take somebody and they want to pull money out of their 401k, if they're under age 59 and a half, they're penalized, which is 10%. And then also they get to pay, I always say get, but they have to pay their taxes on top of that. So by the time you factor in federal and state taxes, you're losing about 45% of those dollars. When you're sitting down with a client, they need to understand that, because most of them don't. They don't understand what it means if they pull their money out when they're 59 and a half. They just know they're going to get penalized. That's it. They really need to understand that. Now there's the age 72 rule, okay? And the 72 rule says when you turn 72, you have to start pulling money out. And if you don't, now you don't have to pull it all out. It's a minimum distribution that's required that you pull out, RMD. If you don't pull that out though, there's a 50% penalty on that amount. Plus you get to pay taxes, federal and state taxes on that as well. So you're losing about 85% of it if you pull it out before age 72. Yes?
So that age is moving.
Is it moving again?
2023 it's going to be 73.
Oh, wow.
Then it's going to jump to 75 in 23.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
The 50% penalty is also dropping
Okay.
down to 25%.
All right, so we save, what, 60% instead of 85? Okay, I'm good with that. It's good to know, though. These tax guys that know their stuff. I love it. Thanks for that information. So that's going to change.
On that, if you pull it out after 59 and a half, you won't get the 10% penalty, right?
After 59 and a half, but you have to at least start when you're 72. Now let's talk about this for a second. The age 72 rule used to be, because we're talking about it going up, right? They're going to increase the age. It used to be 70 and a half. So let's go back to 2008. That 64-year-old that was ready to retire all of a sudden loses half of his life savings. Now has to wait for his money to recover. And how old is he when he starts pulling his money out? 8 to 10 years it took, typically, for them to get their money back. And they're well over age 70 and a half, because that's what it was, right? And they had no idea about those rules, okay? The idea with this, though, is not to scare your clients. We're not here to scare them. We're here to educate and teach them the rules of the game. If you don't know the rules of the game, it's pretty hard to play the game the correct way. And so this is really helpful in teaching your clients when you sit down with them and showing them what they're getting with that tax-deferred plan, okay? Now, when we skip over to tax-free, there's a couple of ways to do it. There's actually more than a couple, but we're only going to talk about two. One is a Roth IRA, which the contributions have increased for 2023. Instead of 6,000, now it's 6,500. And if you're over age 50, it's 7,500. And then of course the 59.5 rule applies with those two. So you're limited to your contributions, and you have to wait to take it out until you're 59.5. Okay. Now, one of the things that I really like to do, in fact, Melanie and I did an appointment the other night, and we talked about this very thing. We had a client that we were talking to that has been putting money in a Roth, and they've been putting in $6,000 a year. And one of the things I showed them is, it's great that you're putting $6,000 a year into this, and I showed them that, let's say 2 years from now, if you happen to pass away, and you put $12,000 away in those 2 years, how much would go to your wife? How much would go to her wife? $12,000, right? No?
She pays taxes on it, right?
Well, no, she could.
Oh, you're saying the tax-free situation? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tax-free. So she'd get $12,000, so just enough to bury him, okay? Or we could do an IUL. You could put $6,000 a year in that away, get a $250,000 life insurance policy, and if you died in 2 years, how much is your wife going to get? $250,000, right?
Plus the cash.
Hmm?
Plus the cash.
Plus the cash. Not bad. Not bad at all, you guys. And so there's a good reason to sell an IUL, okay? Plus, there's no limit on how much money you can put into them. There's no 59.5 rule. You can leave it in as long as you want. You can take it out whenever you want for any reason whatsoever. It just doesn't have to be earmarked for retirement. And you actually get the opportunity to become your own bank. Okay, there are people that use these not just for retirement. They maybe want to make a house fund out of it, where in a few years they could pull a chunk of cash out and put a nice down payment on a home. There's so much flexibility with these types of plans that you get with an IUL versus a Roth. A Roth doesn't stand a chance to the benefits that come with it, okay? Yes?
So on the Roth, does it not have this age 72 rule?
No, because it's tax-free when you pull it out.
They already got
Cool.
their taxes.
Yeah,
And
they don't.
then on both of those, you're still gonna pay income tax, right? Before you put it in?
On your contribution, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, on the contribution you would, but your interest earned is tax-free on both of those.
Right.
Okay. All right, so there's that. Okay, now, we're down to our last slide here.
Oh,
And what I have up at the top does not correlate exactly with what I have at the bottom. Okay, but I want to talk about how an IUL is tax-free. And it doesn't matter if it's an index universal life, a whole life, a universal life, a variable universal life. It's been so long since I've sold those, I forgot the name already. The rules are all the same, and it's section 7702 of the IRS code that states that you can put money in a life insurance policy and draw the money, the cash out, the interest earned out tax-free. So it's stated right in the IRS codes. And this is a law that honestly has been catered to the wealthy forever. Because the wealthy would take advantage of this. The whole reason whole life exists is because of the wealthy. Because what they would do is they would put, say, $10 million in a whole life policy, and even if they're only getting 3%, they're not concerned about growing their money. They already have it. They're using this money as a tax strategy, okay? So if they get 3% on $10 million, that's $300,000 a year that they could draw out in interest earnings. That $10 million just sits there and earns interest for them, and they are able to pull $300,000 a year, 100% tax-free. So it's a great plan if you got 10 million sitting around. Most of us don't, and that's why we're here, right? We're here to earn that 10 million, which I think we can do very easily if we work hard. But for those of us that need to grow our money, that's why an index universal life makes perfect sense, because you can get all of the upside potential of growth with that protection and have yourself a nice little retirement when that day comes. Okay, that's all I got. I appreciate your time. Is there any questions before we end? Okay, all right, we're good.
All right. I know everyone's looking to get out of here, so I'll leave you with one quick statement before we go. Paying the pipe, this is from an audio that I heard from my dad the other day, is paying the price right now costs a penny, but the regret costs a fortune. So it's all get it done now. Don't have the regret in the future. Thanks.
All right.